So this session is called Keeping in Good Mental Health as a Carer, and this is just a bit about HomeTouch, in case for those of you who don't know us. So we're an online service that helps connect self-employed carers with people looking for care, mainly families looking for care for their loved ones, often people also looking for care for themselves. And we're sort of across London, and really we use technology to try and connect people and provide a good service for both the carers and people looking for care. And we founded this about 9 months ago now. And it was really sort of born out of my experience working as a doctor in the NHS. I'm a dementia physician by background and a psychiatrist, and it was really just seeing the struggles that people had finding regular care and trying to really build that continuity of care. And people really having a sort of often quite a negative experience with agencies where there was this whole different stream of people coming through the door. So what we're doing this autumn is running a series of workshops that are trying to sort of look at topics that are common to both people working as professional carers, but also people looking after friends or family themselves, and trying to sort of really share that knowledge with each other, so that you can basically do your job or your role better, and also look after yourself. Because one of the things I learned being a doctor is that you've really got to make sure that you're caring for yourself as well. And if you're not in good health, then that's a problem. So it's really about trying to sort of make sure that you are as resilient and strong yourself, so that you can care for the people that you're looking after. Okay. So these are some of the events we're going to do. This one's around mental health. We're going to do. Sure, yeah. So the next one is around what's called good brain health, and really that's just going to be about the same way we look after our heart, how to look after your brain, and particularly as you age, so that you kind of keep mentally sharp, and sort of help to reduce your risk of dementia. If you're looking after someone who's got dementia, how do you sort of make sure their brain stays healthy? Then some other tips around various aspects of dementia, because I think that's one of the big areas that everyone will come into contact with at some point in their caring career. Okay, so hopefully you'll come to some of those events and tell other people about what we're doing. So the aims of this session are really to introduce some scientific and clinical concepts around caring and mental health, helping you to recognise problems in either yourself or maybe people that you work with or know, and really trying to empower you so that you understand these problems and also how to deal with them, and giving you some practical tips around how to change behaviours, and hopefully that will enable you to be more resilient and improve your overall well-being. So, in terms of the sort of various areas we'll discuss, we'll talk about what is stress and how to cope with that, and the actual how does stress build up. There are these sort of problems called carer strain and burnout syndrome. And carer strain generally tends to affect people who are caring for a family member, whereas burnout syndrome is more if you're working in a particular role. And I think you probably all recognise to some degree the symptoms of burnout, because I think if you haven't, then you probably haven't been working hard enough. So it's just a sort of a few tips there, and then just looking at things like sleep, what's called sleep hygiene. So really, how do you sort of get good sleep? Because sleep is a restorative activity, and what I mean by that is that you should be able to go to sleep and actually sort of waking up feel refreshed and sort of ready to go again. So really trying to sort of make sure that you get the best out of your sleep. Being discussed a little bit around isolation and loneliness, because we know that's actually quite harmful, and so many of you working as a carer will often be working in quite an isolated way and maybe looking after people who are quite isolated. So actually understanding the sort of health effects of those situations, and just a bit on nutrition and how that can help with your well-being as well. Okay, so what is stress? Well, there's this saying that anxiety, you can't live with it, you can't live without it. And what I mean by that is that you always need some level of anxiety to perform at a reasonable level. And people get very sort of, anxiety can be quite distressing and unpleasant. But if you get it to the right level, then actually that's what gives you the sort of optimum performance. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. And stress, stress is a very widely used term, but in the sort of neurobiological sort of sense, what it is it's part of our natural fight or flight response. Okay, so if you think about how we've evolved over millennia, why do we need stress? Well, we need it to hunt, we need it to react to threats, but often these things are very short-lived. So you might sort of need to go and hunt food, but you would only do that for maybe half an hour, and then you would be back to a more relaxed state. So it's perfectly fine to have just short bursts of stress. And this is the sort of how the stress hormones get released. So if we say we're out on the street and you're sort of running for a bus and then you miss the bus. Okay, so that's stressful. So then your brain is stimulated to release hormones in a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, and then that releases further messages to your pituitary gland, which then sends the signal to your renal gland, which is around your kidney, which is where the hormone cortisol is released. And cortisol is the stress hormone. Again, we always have some level of cortisol sort of circulating in our blood, but when it's chronically elevated and you have chronic sort of things that are stressing you out, then it can have effects on your mental and physical health. And so the kind of things that can happen are that it can cause mood swings, hostility, it can cause problems with your sort of give you headaches, it can cause changes in your sort of hunger, so you're overeating at one point, so you can sort of put on weight very easily. It's actually harder to process sugar, so you're more likely to get diabetes if you have chronically elevated levels of stress hormone. You're more likely to get high blood pressure, feel fatigued, all of these things. So you can see that it's quite a unpleasant thing to have, and if you have chronically elevated stress levels, then your physical health will suffer. So this is just coming back to this point about optimum stress levels. So on the bottom here you have stress. So you start with a very low amount of stress, and then you've got performance. Okay, so imagine you were doing an exam or you were doing your driving test tomorrow. Where would you want to be on this graph?
Good stress.
Okay, but where's you want to be at the maximum performance, right?
Yeah.
So the maximum performance is here, which means that you've got a sort of medium amount of stress. Okay, so think about when you come back to work. So maybe you've been on holiday and you come back to work, and it's just really difficult to get back to work, isn't it? It's sort of you don't really feel that motivated. You're a bit sluggish, and you're just not quite on the ball, and really that's where you're probably around here. You're not quite performing that well. You're quite relaxed. Yeah, does everyone recognise that sort of stage? And then maybe you get in a few days, and you're much more switched on. You're alert, and you really feel like you're performing very well. And so you're then back at that stage. But then if you get over into once you've been back a few weeks. And things are sort of getting on top of you a bit more, there's much more stress, and your performance starts to sort of go down a bit. And that's really when you can start to get elevated levels of adrenaline and cortisol, and that's really when you can start to experience more anxiety. And anxiety can be very, in the sort of worst case, can lead to panic attacks, and it's a very disabling sort of symptoms, a range of symptoms that can have an impact on how you perform. Does this all make sense? Is it all clear? Yeah. Okay. So some of the symptoms of anxiety, you can have emotional symptoms. You can feel very apprehensive and worried about the future, thoughts going around your head, trouble concentrating, feeling quite tense. Might sort of, what's called hypervigilance. So you can be very sort of sensitive to things, a bit jumpy, be restless, agitated, not being able to gather your thoughts clearly. This is, does anyone know what this is? Okay, so you know, so this is good. Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Okay, yeah. Who? Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. So it's a very famous psychological construct. And what it really means is that so you have 5 tiers to this pyramid, okay, and you can't really go up to these upper stages unless the needs at the bottom of the pyramid are satisfied. Okay, so all of us want to have good self-esteem, and we want to have friendships, and we want to be motivated and have interests. But if you don't have a home, or you're not, you're hungry, or you don't have sort of basic amenities available to you, then those things in a way are irrelevant. So it's always worth thinking about that in terms of your own needs. Are your basic needs met, but also the people that you're caring for as well, because they may. They may sort of enjoy going to the cinema, but if they're feeling in pain, or they're hungry, or they're dehydrated, then actually the other things don't matter so much, because they want more basic needs met. Okay, so I mean it's a fairly simple but very important sort of set of principles. Okay, so there's this concepts around what's called Burnout Syndrome, and this is something that I saw a lot of in the NHS, and I know it's a big problem in the home care industry in particular, because of the nature of the work and demands on people who are working in the care sector. And so it's a sort of type of stress related to workplace activity, and typically people report over time feeling quite exhausted, they lose that sense of enthusiasm and motivation, they don't feel very effective at what they're doing, and people also tend to be quite cynical and frustrated, which is a very sort of typical thing we see. So does anyone sort of brave enough to admit that they've felt like that?
Definitely. maybe not cynical. Sorry. Okay. Maybe not cynical, but I've definitely been exhausted, and because of that, I've lost my enthusiasm, because I'm quite a bubbly, yay! But after the hours start creeping in, I'm like, yay. it just kind of goes with the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I start to feel like I'm not doing my job as good as I was before.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have a similar experience to that?
Yeah, and sometimes you think, okay, I actually need something to give me that motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something new? Is there anything I can organise? Just something to make me feel a bit, happy what I'm doing.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
I felt that, about the pyramid. I work in a company, in a community care company. Mm-hmm. We worked from 6 a.m. until 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get enough sleep.
Okay.
We didn't have
We're coming on to that. We're coming on to sleep.
Physiological needs,
yeah.
And also we didn't feel very safe because the company was not very ethical, and they didn't safeguard us as carers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't have the first 2, so I had all those symptoms.
Yeah.
And also the cynicism, because at one point you are starting to feel dehumanized, and you don't care about things that you should care about anymore.
Yeah.
And that's very dangerous as a carer.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's really interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, these are just some bit. I realise that this is maybe you probably heard all of this stuff before. It's very easy to say it, but it's sort of how do you sort of remain healthy and reduce burnout? Well, it's just, in a way it's really about having a routine and structure and making sure you have time for yourself and you're actually looking after yourself, because stress can really kind of cause you to neglect those basic things. So, whether it's just having relaxation time, having a healthy diet, making sure that are you doing just even basic exercise, and the recommendation is even just doing a sort of brisk walk, 30 minutes, 3 times a week is sufficient. I mean, even that is known to be good for your heart and your general mood. Setting boundaries, that's really about being able to say no, because that ensures that you have your professional boundaries, and I think that's definitely relevant in the care sector. Knowing when someone's sort of pushing you to stay longer when actually you're not contracted to do that, or you're so that's an important thing. Obviously, we're all now hooked up to technology all the time, and the screen glare, all these things has an effect on your sleep-wake cycle, and makes you more agitated and sort of anxious. It's well known that there are sort of things that help with things like depression. So having re-engaging with friends, having sort of social connections, and having interests where you have sort of purposeful activity that you really enjoy, that's just enjoyable in its own right. So that might be a hobby of some sort, and really just making sure you find time to do that kind of thing. So those are just some of the sort of tactics I would recommend. I think I just included this slide because I just wanted to sort of emphasise that we know that it's a sort of big problem that many people find in what you were talking about in some home care organisations, and there's sort of a lot of pressure and feel that you're not getting supported from the sort of senior staff, and it feels like it's a very dehumanising experience. So just a quick word on social isolation and loneliness. So there's now lots of evidence that's been done in trials that actually loneliness is as harmful as smoking, and your life expectancy really reduces significantly if you are lonely and socially isolated. And if you think about it, many of the people you probably care for are a bit like that. But also, if you're a family carer, you may be socially isolated with looking after someone who's got advanced dementia, then maybe you may not see anyone for the whole of the rest of the day. And also, part of the reason we run these events is because we know that carers often are alone working, and actually you really like sort of coming together and talking with each other and sharing experiences. So we know it's got a health benefit as well. So it's just to be aware of that, because I think if you are isolated, that can in itself be quite a harmful thing. And as I said, it's as harmful as smoking. So with a bit about sleep. So there's this idea of what's called sleep debt. So if you sort of have an unusual or irregular sleep pattern, maybe where you're doing shift work, or you're getting up very early, going to bed very late, then you accumulate sleep debt. Okay, so what that means is that you're not getting enough sleep, and then you sort of double up on your sleep maybe over the weekend. So you might sleep for 12 hours, and that's sort of okay in that you can sort of, if you like, you can pay back your sleep debt, but it sort of leads to a slightly irregular routine. And of course, care professionals are definitely prone to this if you're doing sort of late night shifts and all these kind of things, getting up very early. But the important thing to know about sleep is that it has sort of two main functions. One is that it is restorative, and so it's, as I said at the beginning, it's there to really help you feel rested. But also one of the things that goes on in sleep, and this is something that's only really been found out about in the last few years, is that it's a really important time to be processing what has happened to you during the day, and you don't actually have any other time when that happens. Okay, so imagine how much happened to you in a normal day. You might have all these strange experiences which you don't even have the time to think about, and when you're in deep sleep, that is when your mind sort of processes all that information. And that's really what dreams are. They're the sort of processing of unconscious thoughts and sort of really integrating all the experiences you've had. And it's actually a really important sort of activity, because if you're chronically sleep deprived, not only will you feel tired, it's almost impossible to think. So it's very well proven that if you are even slightly sleep deprived, you're as likely to sort of crash your car as if you're intoxicated with alcohol. Okay, so it's very important to have a regular sleep pattern. And this what's called REM sleep. So REM stands for rapid eye movement sleep. Okay, and that's a phase of sleep that you go into typically about 4 or 5 times overnight, and your body completely freezes, and your eyes are just going back and forth. Okay, and that's when your brain is processing all of these things that have happened to you during the day, and it's really the time when you're in your most sort of it's a really important part of sleep. That's when if you have as much REM sleep as possible, then you will feel generally.
Is that like a deep sleep?
It's actually not. So this is so this is actually the graph here. So you have 5 stages of sleep. So you might go to so imagine you go to sleep, say I don't know 11 or 12 in the evening, and then you wake up at sort of 8. Okay, so you're awake, and then you go into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So this is the deepest sleep. Okay, so if you're woken here, then you feel really, really groggy. And actually, when you're woken in rapid eye movement sleep, you almost just get up and you're fine, and you're just literally like you're awake. So rapid eye movement sleep is actually just below being awake, but you're actually very deeply asleep. So it's a very, it's a source of a lot of scientific interest, because it's a very unusual state, and this is where people go. When people sort of sleepwalk and do all kinds of strange things in their sleep, it's normally during rapid eye movement sleep. But the point is, in you and I, it's really important that you have at least 3, 4, 5 ideally periods of rapid eye movement sleep. So if you're constantly, if you're shortening your overall period of sleep, so you only have 3 or 4 hours, or you're getting up in the night lots of times, or then you'll reduce the number of rapid eye movement sleeps that you have, and you'll generally feel much less refreshed and probably less alert and able to think clearly. Okay, so does that make sense? Is this a general principle? Okay. So and then this idea of sleep hygiene. So all that means really is the sort of ways to help you ensure that you get good sleep. And there are sort of basic things to do. So, for instance, you don't overeat before you go to bed, because then you're still digesting. Don't have technology in bed, so you don't be sort of using your iPhone or whatever it is. Don't watch the TV in bed, because it's sort of the screen glare that sort of causes you to not shut down properly. Sort of stay hydrated, so drink sort of plenty of water to go to bed, because you normally lose about, I think it's about 1.5 litres of water when you're asleep. So you can actually sort of wake up very dehydrated. And basic things that you shouldn't do, sort of having, you can see, sort of stimulants like coffee, don't have too much coffee. I mean, this is all pretty common sense stuff. But it's important in terms of having good sleep.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, of course.
What do you think about melatonin?
Melatonin. Yeah, so it's it has some effectiveness. It's mainly used in jet lag. I think it can be a bit sedating if you just take it as a sleep aid. I have to say I'm not sure whether it's. I mean, any sort of sleep aid you're taking on a regular basis, I would say, ideally you should be trying to avoid that. And most sleep drugs, they have some addictive potential. So,
But isn't that produced naturally?
Sorry?
Isn't melatonin produced naturally?
Melatonin is produced naturally, and actually it's not, melatonin isn't addictive, but it is, it's not something that I would typically recommend. And I don't think it's, if you have really chronic sleep problems, then it's maybe something that can help, but you wouldn't take it routinely. I think if you are doing shift, are you talking about doing it in the context of shift work? Because a lot of people come home and they need to, maybe they've done a night shift and then it's difficult to get to sleep. Because that can be a bit more helpful because you obviously need to sleep during the daytime, which can be more problematic. So all the melatonin does is sort of shift your what's called your sleep-wake cycle so that you're going to go to sleep at a different time in the day. So it's certainly the most natural of all the sleep sort of medicines that are available.
I'm not using this regularly. Just when I want to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I never ever need the clock, the alarm watch in the morning. Yeah. But when I take melatonin, I have to put all the watches because it's amazing. And then when you wake up in the morning, you feel, wow,
You feel refreshed.
fresh, marvelous.
Another thing, I do living here. And most of the time, some of the clients don't sleep at night. They wake you up 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Yeah, so I think, obviously that's the nature of the work. So you have to be, it's really about the sleep debt issue, isn't it? Because when it's to ensure that you sort of catch up on your sleep.
You cannot.
Well, that's
because in the daytime also.
Yeah.
In the daytime, you
cannot even get the sleep.
No, even the last one I did for HomeTouch,
Yeah.
he was waking me up 4 times in
Yeah.
the night.
Yeah.
At a
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
I told the daughter,
Yeah.
in fact we had to call a nurse and they arranged to get me a kind of relief for the night.
Yeah.
Or twice.
Yeah.
2 times in the night, which wasn't enough for me.
Yeah. You're not, I think the point is that the nature of the work you're doing, it's inevitable that you're going to be working up, but it's more about the chronic effects. So if you were doing it for sort of 6 months without a break, then you would probably not be great.
Of course, you wake up completely.
Yeah. And so it's about having rest, having time off, having rest. And because it's, I accept it's very difficult, and living care it's even more challenging. Yeah.
And you find out that most old people don't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's the truth.
Yeah.
They don't sleep.
Yeah.
Not even in the
the
day.
company as well.
Not the company. They can have a little snooze in the day.
Yeah.
In the night, they then have this tendency of calling you and waking you up.
That might happen more when they spend a lot of time indoors and sitting down all day.
Yeah, and then they doze off in the afternoon, and then you are not sleeping also
Yeah.
when they are having a sleep in the afternoon.
Unfortunately, it's well known particularly with dementia. As you age, as you age, your need for sleep reduces. So that's a fact. But also with certain conditions, so dementia, Parkinson's in particular.
Dementia in particular. They wander off and go around and go.
Yeah.
I used to work for a club who used to stand over me in the night, go, hello. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's an occupational hazard, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Being a carer.
Yeah. Okay.
But some families are so difficult.
Process.
Like the last family, they were understanding. They arranged for this, giving me a respite, like getting me a carer to do night twice. But some families will not. They will tell you, we are paying you for it.
Yeah. Okay, so just to sort of sum up then, it just really. I hope that sort of helped you understand some of the things about anxiety and sort of stress, and give me some new skills in recognizing things in yourself. I think it's also about sort of knowing your limits, really, because we're all, it's inevitable. All of us will be under stress. It's happened. That's part of life. But it's also sort of trying to understand the limits of sort of where you, if you feel that you're too sort of strained in terms of where you are, both professionally or looking after someone, sort of knowing how to address that. It's also important, being able to make sure you're healthy, so you're looking after the people you are. So that's sort of, that's sort of duty to do that. But there are lots of ways to address these problems. And it's actually, people sort of say about mental health, well, is there any way you can treat these things? Actually, there are lots of tools that you can use, and there's lots of things that haven't even really talked about. Things like cognitive behavioural therapy, which are very well proven to be effective. So there is help available as well. So I hope that's been useful. That's the thing coming, and